everyone? Now we are talking. Thank you very much. Last evening, the people who attended the gala dinner, the Honorable Deputy Minister said, the future is here. The youth are here. For those of you who attended and you are still refreshing your memories, you can recall that. For now, I'm saying that session is here. You were promised of a session, it's now. And I would like to thank you all for joining this important conversation on transforming rail operations in Africa. Our theme this afternoon is about how modern operating models, including third-party access, public-private partnerships, and digitalization can accelerate both mobility and economic opportunity across the continent. The moderator in this session is myself. I'm an engineer by profession from the old school. And currently, I'm wearing a number of hats, so don't worry. My colleague who just said, I better be quick. I will try as much as possible to do so. A father of only 4 girls, turning out into women in South Africa here, turning it to be a month of women. You can imagine how I am now with the 4 women around me. Glad to have you all here. Women in rail, I envy you. I love you all. Thank you. It's your month and it's your day. The session is here now. Let me call upon my panelists. I've increased the number of chairs here because my panelists are many. I have Mr. Kumbulani Mavura, representing Beitbridge Bulawayo Railway. Please, Mr. Mavura, you can stand up now. The session is here. Johnny Smith, I saw Johnny Smith this morning. Yes, he has changed seats. Please, representing Green Road. These are the CEOs who are there and who are with us here. Nicholas Gregor from Lobito Atlantic Railway. Nicholas, thank you very much. Please, you have your seat next to Johnny Smith. Waze Kruger from Traction. Mr. Kruger, sir. I saw you outside there. Yeah, you are. Yes, thank you, sir. Great. Did I say yes? Madam Tembi Lehanyane. Now I have Shamina, Madam Shamina. Please, are you here? She's having a cup of tea, please. Oh, no, she's having a walk. All right, please, madam, thank you. Welcome. I was wondering to say that one. I give an undiscriminatory something today. And then I've got Nimon Zulu from Calabash. Nimon, thanks very much. Wow. It's a full house, loaded indeed, with Nimon coming in to take the seat. This seat was reserved for me. I want seat. I'll be standing. If you have got another one, there's another hot seat here, which you may want to take. Now, whilst they are greeting each other, listen to this. We are talking of transforming rail operations in Africa, not in Southern Africa. We are talking of transforming. From the school of old, a transformer is either a step up or a step down transformer. So in this case, we're looking at stepping up rail operations in Africa. And we are looking at stepping up rail operations in Africa in consideration on how modern operating models, including third party. These gurus that are in front of you, most of them are third party operators. Public-private partnerships and digitalization. We have been hearing of digitalization. We want to see it in relation to transforming rail operations in Africa or stepping up rail operations in Africa and how they can accelerate mobility, but the emphasis much is on economic opportunities that are there. So you have the floor. The mics are there, 2 of them. The 3 are going to be used by the 3. The other 3, one is going to be used by 3, the other by the 3. So you can split it accordingly. There are no fighting. Within this context, Africa's railways are at a crossroads. This word, please take it seriously. Africa's railways are at a crossroads. You can take either way. You'll be there. Legacy systems are limiting growth. True or false? There you go. There you go. While new models are emerging that can replace and reshape trade, connectivity, and development are also there. Oh, I wish I was going to preach on this one. Today, we will explore the challenges, opportunities, and lessons from around the world, in particular, this world of ours here, where we are, Africa, that can help us chart a practical way forward. And colleagues in here, the practicality is here. And the structure is going to go around the need for change in legacy operating systems. Wow. Core features of modern operating systems. Enabling economic opportunity through efficiency and access. If we find time, we may want to look at some case studies on some successful third-party access and concessional models, if you find time. But just look at this first one that I'm starting with you. I will start with you, Mr. Mavura. You are there deliberately because you are taking the first seat. Jonas Smith, you'll be in the next one. What are the biggest limitations of Africa's legacy railway operating systems? Wow. Simple question, mouthful, but tough.
Thank you, Engineer. I appreciate it. I'm not a religious person. I'm one of those unfortunate ones who more believe in science than anything else. It's unfortunate, really, because some, when they have problems, they kneel down and they do it. Me, when I have problems, I have to think a solution to the problem, nothing else. It's so unfortunate. But I'm going to borrow from a book that the Christians use called a Bible. Proverbs 13, verse 24, which I believe is the limitation that the legacy railways have. I'm going to try and say it as nicely so that I don't, because we work together, we work harmoniously, so we'll try and make it. But if you look at Proverbs 13, verse 24, he who spares a rod spoils a child. The biggest limitation that we have for legacy railways is protectionism. If you have your child and you give your child everything every time, your child will cease to think. your child will not be as innovative as they should be. So what will happen is the child will just sit back and wait, say, Dad is going to come and give me this, Dad is going to come and give me this. So when I was listening, there are quite a number of speakers that I had taken note of, and they really touched me that as Africa, we are lacking innovation. Our legacy railways are lacking innovation. So I will bring it to this. Tsepo, I think, from Gautrain said it well, but I think he left a bit. The legacy railways operators were left with so many factories that can do so many things, but unfortunately, were overtaken by those who came in. Even the Chinese, eventually they became number one, the Europeans and everything else. But if you look back in history, when Cecil Rhodes had the Cape to Cairo vision in his head, he had put so many things in place to make sure that we move in a certain direction, but we have not moved. And that has been the biggest limitation. So the biggest limitation is the innovation. Africa, we have been blessed, or fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know, but we are behind in terms of research and development. Fortunate enough that, like what Richard said, I liked it. Don't reinvent the wheel, keep it simple. Most of the things that we're using in rail now have been developed already. So why reinvent the wheel? Let's copy from those who have done before. Let's have our research and development teams that do less and just look at what's there and do reverse engineering like I mentioned, and we move forward. So the most important thing is research and development, upskilling. And at the end of the day, Africa has got a GDP of what? 2.8 trillion, its nominal value, but a triple P were 10.8 trillion. But what are we as the legacy railway doing to make sure that we develop that? So I will leave that now, then move forward in it.
Thank you very much. John Smith, do you have anything to add from that one?
Yeah, so if one looks at the rail in terms of a sector, the history is not a good history. So all over the years, what has happened is that the road has taken up our share of what we were supposed to enjoy and make money of, or make money out of. Now, if you look at some of the railways within Southern Africa, there hasn't been maintenance done in many years. And this is because we have lost focus. We have concentrated, if one looks at it from a political landscape perspective, we are focused on roads, because with roads you can cut the ribbon so many projects in 1 year. But if you do a railway project of, let's say, 500 kilometers, it takes you how many years to finish that railway project? So the priorities have shifted over a period of time, a long time. But let's focus on the solution, because the past is the past. The only way we will resolve this, and we have heard from the announcement last week from the Minister of Transport in South Africa, that they have appointed some new entrants to the market. And you can only fix this problem with somebody who's coming with a wallet, who's got the funding, and who has the capability to add efficiency to the market. And simplistically, what is it that we as rail are supposed to do? We're supposed to take the product, mostly, of course, if you look at bulk commodities, from the mine to the export market, which is the port, linking to the port. So that's our main business. And in order for us to do that efficiently, we need to make sure that we move on a rail track that is well maintained. That means the transit time must be good. Number two, you need to be able to invest in rolling stock. So the solution is, as we're sitting here, is that we need to open open up our markets and allow for other entrants who has the funding or has the backup of the funding and then can add efficiency to the market so that at the end of the day, it's about improving the trade. We've heard one of the speakers said earlier this morning, it's about then eventually the long-term positive effect of the GDP to the country. And that's really the railway being an enabler. And that should be our strategic position going forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Johnny. You have pointed out about funding, infrastructure, as well as rolling stock. But I just wanted to look at the need for change in legacy operating systems under this area. Mr. Gregor.
Yes, good morning everyone. So my name is Nicolas Grégoire. I'm the CEO of Lobito Atlantic Railway, the concession in Angola that is linking Lobito with the DRC border. So what I would like to say as a private operator, private company having a concession is that we all aiming at, it was already said, but efficiency, safety, competition, and also at costs. And when you look at today at the legacy we've got in most of the railways, I'm not speaking about South Africa, but the railways more on sub-Saharan Africa, this is missing because we've got a track in a very bad condition, we've got a track without any maintenance, we've got the rolling stock in a bad condition also without maintenance, we don't have regulation that are updated, we've got a lot of safety issues, a lot of derailment, a lot of safety issues with the communities, we've got high cost of running the business. All this is in front of the competition of the trucks, makes our position very, very weak. So if we need to speak about what should be done to improve that, for me, and it was said also yesterday during the discussion, the priority is infrastructure. Because that's a more complex one, and it's the one that will take more time to be upgraded. Rolling stock, it's quite easy. You can buy, lease a rolling stock, but to operate even with a track access, you need an infrastructure that is working. You need a telecommunication system that is working to guarantee the safety of the operation and the efficiency of the operation. We all know that the cycle time is quite important because that will bring our cost down. It will also allow us to sell, at a better price to any third party, any client that wants to transport is good, because we will have a competition always on the road, because the road, they are not paying for the investment. We are paying most of the railways. We should pay for the infrastructure. And the investment on infrastructure is very high. If just to see, for instance, in Angola, the infrastructure was rebuilt, but without maintenance, it will not last. After 10 years, we can see already incident now. So we need to be sure that there will be a heavy maintenance organized, that we will have a team around, that we will have predictive maintenance, to be sure that our infrastructure will remain up to date, to allow an operator or various operators to do safe operation efficiently, to be competitive against the road.
Competition against the roads. Now, mostly we see that in the roads, people move anyhow because the roads are the national asset that anyone is using. But when it comes to rail, there is the issue of access. How can open access models be adapted in Africa so that we should be equal to the rest of the world? And what is the role of PPPs in balancing investment risks as well as sustainability? We want to push in PPPs. What is at risk if we want to push PPPs? And what else can we do to improve on that?
Okay, thank you very much. Just a bit of background on, on Traction. We're a private rail operator. We currently have feet in 9 countries in Africa. We're 38 years old. And just, I think, the fact for the private sector to start running trains on core networks of traditional monopoly networks, I think it comes down to, and that's what we believe, we've got to increase competition. As a competitive environment on the networks, increase, it becomes more and more attractive for private sector funding. And as we know, there's an immense amount of funding that's needed to, to get our infrastructure to a level that turnaround times improve, new locomotives, new wagons, they sweat better. Running railways, I think, predominantly is a fixed cost business. And so how do we kind of take a step up on a fixed cost business? You've got to increase your volumes. You've got to get volumes maximized. And the only way to get volumes maximized is look at your infrastructure, look at your rolling stock, look at your supply chains, look at your people, and private sector funding and PPPs will follow those areas that are attractive to them. But we've got to create an enabling environment for that to work. And governments have to, they're very much part of the solution. Those enabling environments need to be conducive to attract private sector operators like ourselves, more competition. We drive down the cost of doing logistics and with the resulting knock-on effects.
Thank you very much. Traditional monopoly networks. You want to say something under the subject, Madam Tamina, but should Africa leapfrog into advanced digital solutions or adopt them in phases?
Yeah. Well, I think the success story for South Africa right now is that the vertical separation, which was outstanding, has taken place quite successfully. We managed to break this monopoly that you talk about and introduce competition in the sector. I mean, it's old news now, but as late as Friday, we were able to announce the 11 new terminal operators that are coming onto the network as early as 2026. But that is not the end of the story, because it was just not 11 applicants that applied. That shows the interest of private sector to want to operate on the network. So we had quite a significant amount of applications, which will not necessarily fall to the floor, because we run our network statements on an annual basis, and these applications will resuscitate to have an additional assessments, get additional slots to the corridor. So for us, that's a continuous way of getting TOCs onto the network, coupled with the fact that we do run ad hoc slots for both, for everyone to take up slots that are not being taken on the network. But from an Africa perspective, it's about integration. It's how do we integrate the rail network across our borders? How do we get rid of the legacy of the infrastructure that's not matching? How do we get that to tie up? Our processes allow for cross-border, allows for international players to partner with local players to come onto our network. So that integration from an Africa perspective is in our purview. But it also requires bilaterals. It requires regulatory frameworks to enable us to bring this to the fore, because not only as the infrastructure manager are we challenged with ensuring fair third-party access, we also challenge to cater for giving assurance to cross-border partners that they can have access to our network. So that in itself is contradictory, isn't it? We're allowing third-party open, fair access, but we must also guarantee access across our borders. So that requires talks on a much higher levels, and it requires agreements that guarantees capacity on our network. We also are cognizant of the fact that our network has to be brought up to a standard that is able to give our TOCs the assurance that is safe and reliable. We are also going to make sure that's complemented with private sector participation on our corridors. But that private sector participation will be one of maintaining, operating, bringing it up to standard. But again, we can't allow total exclusivity, because open access has to still be entrenched in those concessions. We are also then analyzing, do we do a fully integrated put-to-port concession, because sometimes you have concessions that are bundled, that takes across from the rail to the port, or do you have concessions just on corridors? We are very, very open to private sector investing on our network, making it more safe and reliable to bring down the cost of doing business. We're looking at making sure that the viability exists for both them and for us. But ultimately, as the IM, we will own the infrastructure, we will make sure we give the assurances, work with our regulator, IRAC, and the Department of Transport, to bring all of these dynamics that the TOCs, the cargo owners, and everybody throughout Africa are faced with, so that we give a seamless solution across our African borders.
Seamless solution across our African borders. I do believe that the executive director of SARA is here and is listening to the outcry of trade impediments on our borders. It's an issue that can be dealt with by governments. And most of us here, colleagues, are government state-owned railway operators. And the need for cross-border debottlenecking is being highlighted in this session. Mr. Zulu, you have heard. If you were given a broom to say anything, what anything are you going to say?
Thank you very much. My name is Nimon Zulu. I'm CEO for Calabash Freight. We operate from DRC through Zambia to the port of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. So, from what everybody has said, you know, we are not going to focus on the problems. Otherwise, I'll spend the whole day talking about the problems that we have. But we are going to focus on the solutions. From yesterday, we've heard about open access, and then also from the legacy point of view today. The mistake that a lot of people in the legacy, if I can call it that, is a lot of people think open access is privatization. And that's why we faced a lot of resistance coming in as a private operator. So going forward, if we educate everybody, I think it starts with changes in legislation, regulation, and then we start moving forward to catch up with the times. Rail has not moved with time. Most of the rail lines that we're currently plying on now were built before I was born. And there hasn't been much of any upgrades. And as we all know, in the rail business, it's about efficiency. For us to be able to make money, to be able to recover on our rolling stock. So with the open access now that is being promoted everywhere, Botswana is looking to open access. So in that, we also have to bring in the regional integration with what, from the way we operate now, from DRC to Tanzania, we go as a block train, and we only stop at the borders, and then in 6 days, we are in Dar es Salaam. That is looking at the northeast corridor. 6 days we are there. There are no delays. We don't unhook the wagons. We go as a block train. So to have that regional integration, we need to have that on all the networks. I think that will help us to properly integrate, and because the more we delay this, the more damage is being done to our roads. For those that have been to Zambia, Tanzania and DRC, you've seen the number of trucks that are on the road. So the more this is delayed, the more damage we're causing to the roads, the more the governments are spending on the roads. I think that's what I can say for now.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Colleagues, back to Mr. Mavura. There is one issue here that I want you to start. Now, colleagues, each and every one of you start thinking about this. It will start with Mr. Mavura once again. If you had to prioritize one reform to accelerate rail transformation in Africa, rail transformation, rail stepping up, what would it be?
Naturally, like what most people are saying, the biggest bottleneck in rail right now across Africa, it's our governments. Our governments are rigid and they're still kind of looking things from a backward point of perspective. What they need to do is to open their eyes a bit. Like now they're talking about Africa, continental free trade area, and you are talking about 1.4 billion people that you want to trade with. And you have a situation where you have, like for example, I'll give you an example in our country, in Zimbabwe, we've got trucks that are moving a distance of about 500 kilometers, carrying as much as 50 tons, moving up and down. In terms of economic benefit, like I like what Hisham said when he mentioned the passenger train. What the government is simply doing is taking, for example, on the fuel taxes, where we have quite a high level of fuel tax. They're simply taking from us, then they're putting on the roads. So what in terms of economic benefit, the tax that they're taking from us, it's immaterial, because at the end of the day, they're just going to take and put it on the roads. So they will remain the biggest hindrance in developing Africa, in Africa trading amongst itself, in third-party access. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of holding on to something that you can see that is deteriorating? I believe it's better to own 10% of an elephant than 100% of a rat. At the end of the day, you realize that it helps more, it helps more, it helps more. So I'm glad SARA is here again, like you were saying. SARA really has to push this agenda through SADC and make the government understand the importance of third-party access. Because we have seen it, they can't sustain. And third-party access brings competition, it brings investment. Because we come in, we're moving on the tracks. Eventually, TRIM is going to come at all those who have been given third-party access. It's a matter of time. And saying, no, you have been getting your certain percentage of it, or you've been getting a certain percentage, but at the end of the day, let's find something, $1 or something like that per town towards infrastructure development. And these are the third-party access that are developing the country. So at the end of the day, governments, I hope somebody is listening. Please, please, please.
The message is starting from SADC. I do believe that we have got SADC representative in this meeting and in this forum. I was looking forward to see your face, ma'am. You are somewhere here representing SADC. That's good. The message is starting from SADC. Heads of state coming down to national railways. We are good to go. Next, Johnny, do you want an extra one or you want to add on that one? I've got an extra one for you, but you can add on that one, and the extra one is going to go to Mr. Kruger. What priority? One reform area that you would want to be prioritized in this change of legacy?
Yeah, adding to what Kumbulani was just saying is that in terms of, he's speaking to policy and decisions that needs to be made. And we know that with rail, I always say that rail is at least 30 years behind in terms of a mode of transport, 30 years behind. So how do we catch up? We must accept that we have lost time, but we can't lose another 10 years or another 5 years for that matter. So let's make the decisions. Sometimes you have to make a decision for the sake of moving forward, although it's a difficult decision. So that decision must be made to say, we cannot afford the infrastructure investments as governments. So how do we get help? Let's get help. Let's put up our hand and and say, we need help, and we're making this decision today to say, let us allow the private sector to come in and assist us. Of course, the legislation must be in place and all of that, but sometimes we are not even willing to make that decision to move forward. So that decision is very critical, because we cannot hold that decision for another 5 years. We are already in big trouble in terms of our roads. Wherever we go, I mean, roads where we drive within the region, it's a problem. It's a serious, serious problem, where we used to take, for example, 1 hour, some roads are taking you up to 3 to 5 hours. And that is unacceptable. So as human beings, we are suffering at the end of the day.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much on that one. The message is governments should put a hand up, not hands up. Hands up is a sign of being defeated. But a hand up is a sign that, please, look at me here, I need your assistance. That's what I translate it to be. Yes, Sir Gregor, there is the issue of the single most important message to policymakers or investors. What should be the take-home message?
No, just to come back to what was said on the access rights, I will come back to the infrastructure, because the access right will work only if the infrastructure is in a good condition. Because to increase the volumes, we said to increase the slots, to increase the volumes, we need the proper infrastructure, we need a signaling system. If we don't do that, but we give track access to many companies in many railways, it will end up in stopping the business, because this railway will not support additional volumes. And we've got that. I mean, DRC is a good example. Someone needs to invest in the infrastructure. And I guess that today we've seen in a few meetings that there are some financing available, but this needs to be decided by the state, I agree, quickly, because it will take a few years before we can get there. And during the work, you will lose capacity. But I think that without any proper infrastructure, it will not work, including for the track access of the private operator. And there was an example in Gabon where the track access was calculated to be able to, for the company, the concession company, to afford the OPEX, the investments, and the debt. And then the tariff was calculated to be sure that the company could be at break-even, including the debt. And that makes sense, but then it will increase the cost of the track access, and probably for the private operator it will be less interesting. So I think that we need to push the government to invest or to go for concession, or not only on track access. Track access is probably a first step, but for me it's not sustainable on a medium term. We need to invest in infrastructure in most of the countries.
Go for concession is the message. Yes, Mr. Kruger.
Yeah, I think we're all saying there needs to be an investment into the infrastructure, and that's absolutely right. Whether that investment, comes out of the fiscus, the government, or the private sector, I think private sector money moves a lot quicker than government monies. Assuming it's the private sector monies, like in Gabon or in some of these other concessions, the frameworks, the access fees or the concession fees need to be such that the investor of those funds gets his return, the funders get their return, the share, the equity partners get their return. So, government, I think, has a key role in setting the commercial parameters to ensure that the private sector also wins. Those shareholders in the private sector organizations, the funders, get their required returns without negatively impacting the government side. I definitely believe there is room in the rail space for all parties to benefit, but we've got to get volumes increasing because of the fixed cost structure of running railways.
We go to Mr. Zulu. They say ladies last. In August. You sweep everything. It's your turn now to sweep everything. Now, Mr. Zulu, Yes, we are looking at one reform to accelerate. People have been talking of the reform area to accelerate. And what are you saying is the single most important message to policymakers or investors that they should take away out of this discussion? They shouldn't just go away. What is your passing shot to say, take this and leave this place?
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, for like open access to be successful, we need to first look at the unbundling of the vertically integrated state railways, you know, so that we can have a separate rail regulator to determine the access rates. And in that way, if the operations and the infrastructure owners are separate, there will be a lot of efficiencies created, and then also there will be that transparency. So for me, I think we should start with that, unbundling the vertically integrated, and then also, I think that's the important one for me.
Unbundling,
Yeah,
unbundling.
yeah. And then the creation of the regulatory authority that monitors the access to see the fairness in the operations, the allocation of the slots on the lines.
Concession fees have been mentioned. Fairness has been mentioned. Madam, one statement. One statement. Don't worry. If you have several other statements, I will cover for the other statements. One statement.
Well, I had three, but I'm going to have to make it one now, right? So I'm going to choose the best one. For me, it's rail is just not infrastructure. It is a developmental multiplier. And if we use that methodology to invest, maintain, bring private sector into that, it's going to just mean copious amounts of benefit for both private and government entities.
Thank you to our panelists for sharing your expertise and insights. Colleagues, what we have heard today is that transformation is not optional. It's necessary for Africa's competitiveness and mobility. The Cape to Cairo issue has to come and be with us. By modernizing operating models, embracing open access, the public-private partnerships, and learning from global and regional case studies, we can unlock enormous opportunities for trade, connectivity, and inclusive growth. Let's continue the conversation beyond this room to turn these ideas into action.